So, just shout out your favorite form of bread. Anyone?
Pineapple bun.
Pineapple bun. Pizza. Okay. Anyone else? Baguette. Very good. Okay, chassis bow. All right. Anyone else?
Hot dog bun.
Hot dog. Okay. Do you want a hot dog in it or? So I hope you're starting to get a little bit hungry. Are you? Everyone's a little bit hungry because we're starting to talk about food? Well, imagine this. What we're told in Scripture is that the Israelites are now in the desert, or in the wilderness, having escaped from Egypt for 2.5 months. And guess what? Well, there's a point where they ran out of water, so God made water come out of a rock. And then they settled in a place of springs called Elim. We have someone in our congregation named Elim as well. But it was an oasis where people were able to rest. But they were on their way to a promised land, somewhere else where they could worship and engage with God in their daily lives. And so they moved on from there into what is known as the desert of sin. Now, the desert of sin is not like there's a lot of sin there. It's just named that. But it's in actually southern Israel today. So in other words, they've made their way all the way from Egypt to the very southern parts of Israel, of Judea, of what would become Israel. And they were ready to go into the promised land. And at this point, God supplied them with water. I guess the supplies ran out, right? 2.5 weeks. I don't know if you were camped that long. It's a long time to be, in the wilderness. And they're starting to get hungry. Oh, and they start getting hangry. Right? That's what James read for us. In that passage, they're going, someone's fault. And they said, it's better that God killed us in Egypt than for us to die out here in this stinking desert, right, in this wilderness. And they said, whose fault is this? And they go to Moses and Aaron and goes, you guys made it. Anyone get hangry around here? I know I do. I have problems with that. I'm trying to deal with it, okay? Eudora knows that my mood is not great if I haven't eaten. Blood sugar is low, all that other stuff, and it starts to translate into something psychological. And so you might know what that feels like. Maybe you've been on the receiving end of that, and I've been receiving end of that. So both ways right. But these guys are super hangry. And you can imagine there's somewhere like almost 1 million people, perhaps. We're talking about thousands and thousands of people who are hangry. And they're starting to really get upset. It's sort of like the kids in the back of the car who say, not only, are we there yet? It's like, I'm hungry. Right? And another 2 hours, you get to Seattle or something, right? Or whatever it is. And people get upset. And so Moses and Aaron go have a chat with God, and God says something, yet I hear them. Can you imagine God being the driver of this bus? And everyone on the bus is like, I'm hungry. I want hamburgers. I want, it's better. And they would dream about what they ate in Egypt. We had pots filled with meat. It's like, whoa, that's like hardcore. Have you been to Brazilian steakhouse or something like this, where they bring meat on a stick to you and they shave it off? Well, think about that. They were at a buffet. They're saying, we were at a buffet. But guess what? They were slaves. I guess I kind of, they didn't talk about that part. They go, we're just surrounded by food. Right? There's so much food. It's so good. And they don't remember their slaves. And remember what we talked about in the wilderness. When we go into the wilderness may not be a place we choose, but we are supposed to find freedom. But freedom from what? And at this point, they start complaining because they found freedom from meat. Freedom from the food that they had. And they didn't think about the fact that they were free from slavery. When we are led into the desert, when we are led into the wilderness, it is for something good. But they missed it. It's supposed to create space. So what is that good thing? Because they can't find it, honestly. When we're in suffering, when we're in pain, when we're like angry, we're not thinking too clearly because we're focused on the pang in our stomach or the imagination that we had of how things used to be better. I really hope that as I get older, I'm not one of those old guys in a rocking chair. Back in the day, and whatever. It was better then. Everyone was smarter. There's no computers. I don't know. It's like, what is it? Of course, there's a lot of bad things that happen. You just kind of skip that part. So what does God do? He says, I'll provide for them. And what we hear is that God gives them quail. Now, we always miss the quail for the manna, but there's quail. So here's the quail for you. This is what they look like. Oh, they're cute. I like that. But they said the camp in the evening was covered with quail. For whatever reason, these quail would show up. And I think they don't just say, oh, those are nice pets. And I'm sure they made it a meal of it. That's quail, actually. And I found some simulated manna, because manna looks like frost. So mashed potatoes looks like No one knew what manna was. We don't know what manna was, but it came with the dew. When the dew sort of evaporated off, it was left with this manna. And they ate it. But as it got hotter, the manna would go away. It's weird. What is this stuff? That's why you say, manna, what is it? I know what this is. This is pretty good. And I guess they had it with quail. Because I don't know if they roasted it or what, or baked it, whatever. Deep fried it. But here's the thing. God says this. I'm going to test them. Oh, a test. He says, only take what you need. Only take what you need. Do you think that's what they did? Well, we had the passage read for us. Some people actually did just take what they needed. They listened to God. But I think it was enough to make Moses angry because a lot of people probably said, we're going to hedge our bets on tomorrow. We're going to gather a little more, not just eat it, we're going to save some just in case. And when they opened it the next day, it would be full of maggots. Now, I don't see maggots. It's nasty. You don't want maggots. It was gross. Because the next morning, there would be fresh manna. And there'd be more quail. And this happened every day. And only one day it did not come. And they were told that there would be one day, the sixth day, in which they would gather up this food and it would not spoil. So that they could take a day of rest. So they didn't have to go out there in the field and gather all this manna and chase the quail, whatever else. They would have this stuff and it would be ready for the next day so they didn't have to work for it. The lesson here is this. It's not, don't open a savings account. That's not what we're saying. There's wisdom in having a savings, having a bank account. But here's what is going on. How much is enough? For our day and age, how much is enough? In some of our cultures, especially in immigrant culture, well, everyone in Canada is pretty much an immigrant, except for your First Nations folks, our friends there. And maybe they got it, an understanding, the relationship with the land, with the animals. But as we come from possibly cultures that say you need more. Why do you study and you want to go do well in high school? Why do you want to go and study and do well in university? Is it because you can make everyone else's life around you better? Or is it that you can make bank and gather more things to yourself and save up for that so-called rainy day? Because a lot of times, I've heard this said, why are you doing all this stuff? Oh, so I can have security, so that I can take care of my children, so I can take care of my family, so I can take care of myself. But that often becomes more than what they need. How much is enough? How much do we have to climb the ladder? And it's not just about excellence and the service of other people at that point. It's about how high we can climb. And look at the way our world works now. Why are there protests around the world about that 1%? Because the 1% hold most of the assets. What happened to sharing? Someone at some point said, this is not enough. I want more. And this lust for more, this greed for more, begins to destroy the soul. And so, one of the lessons in the wilderness is this. It's freedom from thinking that there is not enough. It's the freedom to say, I am content. I have enough today. That no matter what happens, I'm okay. God will and is taking care of me. Does this mean that there's no suffering? Does this mean that there's no pain? No. Because remember what I said to you, the greatest darkness of all, or the greatest evil of all, is not suffering, is not pain. It is having a darkened heart. It's becoming evil. When you become one of the people who will not share your life. The one of the people who hoard. And your life becomes full of maggots, but you love it. Because it is so entertaining. You're so cocooned. You're so taken care of. Oscar Wilde has this great quote. True contentment is not having everything, but in being satisfied with everything you have. Are you content? Right now. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have difficulties or challenges in life. We do. But besides that, is there enough goodness in your life? Is there enough depth of relationship? And if there isn't a contentment, maybe the wilderness will begin to reveal what it is that bothers you, so that you might face it and not be protected by all the things you have. Trusting God that He will provide. And that our times in the wilderness are meant to free us to trust Him. And then we get to that second passage, why we're in Lent, these 40 days. Jesus Himself is led into the desert by the Holy Spirit. And get this, He doesn't eat for 40 days. Now, I fasted before. And yes, I get hungry. And I'm tempted. I remember I was doing a fast with some young folks, you know, the 30-hour famine type of thing. And I saw some chocolate bars. And I'm like, and this is only like 40 hours, okay? We're not talking 40 days here. I'm going, Wow, it'd be really good to have a Snickers bar right now. Actually, I'll take any of these chocolate bars. I'll take it. I don't care. And it's like, oh, I can't eat it. Oh, I can't eat it. Just 40 hours. I eat like every 4 hours or less. You go around those. And she breaks a lot of bread. Jesus is in the desert for 40, and Diana said something that's really powerful and meaningful and important. When we're in last week, when she said it's when we're in the wilderness, when we're weakened in our weakened state, when we're hangry, that's when temptation comes, and that's when the tempter comes. We are at our most vulnerable in times of challenge, and we can go to our default. Yes, you can be hungry, but you don't have to then begin to look for someone to blame. Yes, we're hungry, but we don't have to lash out at our families, our spouse, our friends. Begin to treat people poorly in our hangriness. Instead, this is what we see with Jesus, and the devil knows where the weakness is. Turn these stones to bread. Feed yourself. It's easy. It's not wrong to eat bread, is it? It's not. It's not a sin. But you have to know what bread means, not only back in the day, but for us. We have a word for this, right? It's bread. Now you can't eat money, but money can buy you a lot of bread. We feel threatened because bread is the subsistence of life, isn't it? We need to eat to live. We are human beings. I mean, ask a nutritionist. Now, they might not recommend bread all the time, okay? You know, hopefully a balanced meal with veggies and all this other stuff, and stay hydrated. But that's what we live by, and that's the symbolism. Jesus, take care of yourself. Jesus, you need this to live. Jesus, aren't you hungry? Meet the needs of that emptiness inside. And maybe the emptiness we feel inside is not just in our stomachs. Maybe it's in our hearts. Maybe it's in our souls. And Jesus replies. I tried to figure out what these words truly meant. And oftentimes it's translated, man shall not live by bread alone, by every word that comes from the mouth of God. But as I studied that passage, and as I studied those words, it means more. It's just the surface meaning. And I tried to dig into it, and this is the best I got. We can't live by just food. That's not what drives us, our existence. And the words, every word that comes from the mouth of God, it's really difficult to translate because it's the effusive words that come from God. It's the speaking of God. What are we talking about? And the closest I get is the spoken heart, is what comes out of the heart of God. Knowing His heart. Knowing what He desires for us. His calling to us. Our world is starving. Yes, some are physically starving. For all the terrible reasons that I've named, that people are unwilling to share because they hoard. Wars, the famines, the social economic injustice, the oppression of people. But even worse, in the hearts of those who maybe are friends and family, they begin to believe that bread is all we need. You can't take it with you, just like the manna. But there is something more about knowing why you exist. Coming to believe that you are loved. That hoarding, that hangriness inside you, and we all have it, can be and is fulfilled by a deep love that God has for us. Manna in the wilderness. What will truly be yours? What feels empty? What do you want? And so in the exercise of Lent that we have for us today, whether you take a walk or we're doing something creative today, I invite you to take the time and space to visit these questions, to walk into the wilderness, to find these hangry places in your heart, the longings that are there. God still meets the Israelites in their comfort. And Jesus, even when tempted, recognized that even when he's hungry in his body, that it is not bread that makes his life worth living.